Hi, this presentation is for the junior class at Caldwell High School. My name is Shannon Decker, and I am the Suicide Prevention Coordinator and the Executive Director of the Speedy Foundation. We are an Idaho-based nonprofit, and we are here to talk about mental health. So let's talk. What is mental health? Mental health is this state of well-being in which every individual realizes their own potential. They can cope with normal stresses of life, they can work productively and fruitfully, and they can make a contribution to their community. This is a definition that comes from the World Health Organization. And when I think of this, I think of a person's ability to live, laugh, love, and learn. When a person is fully engaged in living, laughing, loving, and learning, they have healthy mental health. But mental health is a continuum. Mental health is positive capacity, it's social and emotional well-being, it's our behaviors, it's our thoughts, it's our emotions. Mental health doesn't mean mental ill health, and it doesn't mean happiness. There's so much that goes into this component of our lives. Everyone has mental health. Some people have mental ill health or a mental illness. So mental ill health refers to that spectrum of problems that interferes with a person's cognitive, social, emotional abilities. A mental health problem is a disruption to our usual level of social and emotional well-being. So we've got an interruption to live, laugh, love, or learn. Maybe something has happened to dysregulate us. Our family is going through a crisis. Our family is going through bankruptcy or a housing issue, or perhaps we have someone in our family who struggles with substance use, and their alcohol use or their drug use is a disruption that impacts our mental health. A mental illness is a clinically diagnosable medical condition such as anxiety, depression. It might be something like bipolar disorder. There's a lot of different mental illnesses. And this can happen to anyone. There's so many factors that go into mental illness and to mental health problems. None of these are life sentences. Some might be with us for our lifespan, but most are not. If we can access treatment, we can help get ourselves back to a mental wellness place in being where we're successful in live, laugh, love, and learn. As far as mental illnesses go, there is a huge impact. 50% of all lifetime cases of mental illness begin by age 14, and 75% of those lifetime cases begin by age 24. So those years between 14 and 24 are huge when it comes to our human development and the trajectory of the rest of our lives. On average, there is a delay between the onset of the symptoms, when we start to see the signs and symptoms of an emerging mental illness, and the intervention. That span is 8 to 10 years. So if we have a 14-year-old who's starting to develop signs of a mental illness, they're starting to have the symptoms of maybe a significant depressive disorder, on average in the United States, they aren't finding that intervention and getting help for 8 to 10 years. And so think about all the things that happen. Think back to when you were 14 years old and how much has changed when you turn 15 and 16 and 17 and 18. Where will you be from 8 to 10 years from now? What we want to do is we want to help people find help to get that early intervention, meaning finding someone who can help diagnose and treat a mental illness before it has such a huge impact in their life. So some facts: 1 in 5 children aged 13 to 18 have or will have a serious mental illness, which means that maybe it's you or maybe it's one of your classmates who will experience a significant impact to their mental health. 20% of youth ages 13 to 18 live with a mental health condition. So that means that at Caldwell High School, you have a reason to be concerned. If 20% of your class has some type of a mental health condition, that means that we need to be talking about it. We need to be showing compassion and concern and empathy, and we need to be having dialogues with adults, caring adults who can step in and help. 11% of youth have a mood disorder. 10% of youth have a behavior or a conduct disorder, and 8% of youth have an anxiety disorder. And these are all statistics that come from the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And this is long before COVID. I can only imagine that our impact on mental health over the past year has significantly increased. But that means that there's a lot that we can do to intervene and to support each other. Now, suicide is something that comes up a lot. Youth suicide is something that is pretty significant. It's the second leading cause of death for youth. And it's one of the most preventable causes of death. There is no single cause for suicide. Suicide often occurs when stressors and health issues converge to create an experience where somebody feels helpless and they feel despair. And most people who actively manage their mental health conditions go on to lead incredible lives. Conditions like depression, anxiety, substance use, especially when it's unaddressed, can increase risk for suicide. Another risk is trauma. Trauma is something that is significant to the person who's experienced it. When we think about trauma, we might think about a car accident and the physical trauma of that experience, or maybe a wildfire, a tornado. But other types of trauma are things like sexual assault or physical assault or feeling neglected. And there's a lot that goes on in our homes that we know isn't right. We might try to cover it up, but it does create trauma. For me, I had a lot of trauma going on in my house, but we all put on smiles and we pretended like things were okay. And so it's something that doesn't get talked about. If we think about mental health issues like depression and anxiety, substance use, if we think that we don't talk about those enough, we really don't talk about trauma enough. And that's something that doesn't get resolved unless we're able to share that with someone to help us heal, someone that we trust. It might be a licensed counselor. It might be an adult mentor who we trust. And sometimes the traumas that are going on are things that need to be addressed by some of the social services in our communities, like police and health and welfare. And so what I would like for you to do is to think about who is your trusted adult in your circle. For most, this might be a family member, but for some, it's not a family member. There are a lot of caring adults who are at Caldwell High School who can be there to be your support. And I want you to really consider who those people might be. Another piece for support is resources. You can see on my screen behind me, I have the suicide prevention hotline and the text line. I want to talk through some of these. We have the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-TALK-8255. By July of 2022, we will have a 3-digit number, 988, but at this time we don't have that number. And so I encourage you to take out your cell phone right now and program that phone number in. It's free, it's 24/7, it's anonymous. They have a website, they have chat, but they don't have texting. So for texting, I also encourage you to have the number 741-741. Think of these both as crisis. It doesn't have to be suicide. It doesn't have to be you. Oftentimes people come to me and they'll say, hey, I'm really worried about my brother. This is going on, this is going on, this is going on. What should I do? And I'll say, I am really good with prevention and postvention after someone passes tragically, but I'm not the best at crisis. Let's call the hotline. We'll put it on speakerphone and we'll talk it through together. So after you take the rest of this video in, you are welcome to call the hotline. You can call them and say, hey, I just did a mental health training and I programmed the hotline into my phone number and I want to know what it's going to be like if I'm in crisis, if a friend's in crisis when I call. Can you tell me more about what it's like? They're happy to talk to you. We've got a couple different apps. We have A Friend Asks from the Jason Foundation, which is a great app to have on your phone to know how to help a friend. We have the My3 app, which is a great safety planning app. The Trevor Project is another great piece to have. You can text the Trevor Project at 678-678. You can chat with them at trevorchat.org, and you can call the Trevor line 24/7, 866-488-7386. And this is for LGBTQ plus lives. So if you are impacted, or if you have a friend who's impacted with LGBTQ plus questions, concerns, just wanting to talk with someone who could understand, that is a great hotline to reach out to. And another piece is the teen line. The teen line is not 24/7, but you can text and you can call 1-800-852-8336, or you can text 839-863. They also have chat features if you want to talk to peers. So these are peers, teenagers who are prepared to talk to you about whatever is going on with a mental health, an emotional, a trauma, just whatever is on your mind. It might be crisis, and it might just be someone that you need to, feel connection with. Another couple things that are specific to Idaho, we have the Idaho Suicide Prevention Hotline. So you'll see that 1-800-273-TALK. If you have an Idaho area code, it's going to roll you to the Idaho call center. Idaho also has its own local 208 number. You can put this in your phone, 398-4357. That's also something that you can text. It's not always 24/7. I think it's been scaled up to that. I know during COVID it scaled back. And so if the texting is not working, they will send an auto respond to say, hey, why don't you chat with us? And so remember, if text chatting is your favorite form of communication, you've always got the crisis text line as well. And then locally, there is the Region 3 Crisis Center, and that's serving Canyon County. It's called you can find more information at their website. This is a crisis center that's open to individuals who are 18 and older. It's 24/7. It's free. It's a great resource, but you have to be 18 or older. And so unfortunately, for many who are juniors, that's not an option for you, but I want you to know that that is a resource for you as you get older, maybe for friends who have turned 18 that are experiencing crisis, or perhaps family members that really just need a place to go to de-escalate, to get some sleep, to take a shower, and to talk with someone, to talk with a social worker, to come up with a plan to get themselves out of this emotional crisis. So how do we help a friend? Well, this is a flyer that we have for you guys at your table this week, but there are 10 common warning signs that a friend might be in crisis, and it might be a suicidal crisis, or it could be some other type of crisis. And if we see any of these things, feeling very sad or withdrawn for more than 2 weeks, seriously trying to harm or kill themselves or making plans to do so, just severe out of control risk-taking behaviors, maybe a sudden overwhelming fear for no reason, not eating, throwing up, using laxatives to lose weight, a significant weight loss or a weight gain, seeing, hearing, or believing things that are not real, repeatedly using drugs or alcohol, a drastic change in their mood or behavior, or a personality, or sleeping habits, extreme difficulty in concentrating or staying still, intense worries or fears that are getting in the way of daily activities, things that are impacting live, laugh, love, and learn. These are all things that we feel a gut feeling when we see them in our friends or our peers, or maybe even ourselves. And it's something that we know needs to be addressed. I also want you to look and see that we've got drastic change, sudden change. When it comes to people in your age range, these changes can happen very suddenly. And if you're not comfortable talking with that person about what you're seeing, hey, I've noticed that. If you're not comfortable doing that, it's vital that we share that information with their parents, if their parents are a good support system, or with the school counselor, or with another trusted adult, so that that warning sign doesn't go unnoticed. We need to start the conversation. It worries me to hear you talking like this. Let's talk to someone about it. I've noticed you haven't been acting like yourself lately. Is something going on? Hey, I've noticed that you're not sleeping at all, and that you're really starting to struggle in school. Is everything okay? That "I've noticed" statement is something that's really not judgmental. It's an observation and it shows concern. We need to offer our support, Would you like me to go with you to a support group or a meeting, or do you need a ride to any appointments? We have to be patient. We need to be understanding and provide hope in any way that we can. I really want to help you. What can I do to help right now? Sending good messages like, let's sit down together and look for places to get help. I can go with you. And there's a whole bunch of resources that you have at your disposal through the Sources of Strength program at your school. And if that program is something that you're not familiar with, that's something to go talk to an advisor about. And if it's something that isn't as strong as it once was, that might be something for you to get involved in and help promote. There are other school-based programs that, if you are interested, might be something to start at Caldwell High School to help bring this kind of support around. We need to just be friends. We need to be empathetic and caring. And the way that we do that is that we want to help our friend not feel alone. We want to check in regularly, and we want to include friends in our plans. This doesn't mean that, if somebody's struggling and we weren't close friends, that we are suddenly a Tasmanian devil and we circle in and we try to be everything to them. We have to remember that genuineness and goes a long ways. So we need to be genuine in this. But those friends that we do have a close relationship with, we can be there to support them. We can learn more about mental health conditions. NAMI is a great resource, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, to learn about what is a mental health condition. We want to avoid saying things that dismiss or break down a relationship, like "you'll get over it," or "toughen up," or "you're fine, you'll get through this." Think about ways that we can say things in an empathetic way. We want to tell your friend that having a mental health condition does not change the way you feel about them. We want to tell the friend that it gets better and that you are a support in their life. You can get advice. Remember, who is that trusted person that you go to for advice? It might be a friend, family member. It could be a trusted friend. It could be a school counselor advisor, a teacher, a coach, maybe a faith leader. There's a lot of different adults that impact your life, and some you are comfortable sharing deeply personal information with. If you can't come up with someone, if I ask you who is your trusted adult and you don't have anyone that comes to mind, we need to find that person for you. If you don't have that person, you're welcome to reach out to me and I can help you build a relationship with someone. We can brainstorm who are these people that are in your circle and how can we foster that relationship. That's the number one protective factor in a young person's life. It's not always the family. I'll tell you that from personal experience. I hope that it is, but that's not always the case. So if you need to have the conversation, if you're having the conversation about suicide, remember, if you can talk about suicide, you can talk about anything. You can talk about assault. You can talk about an eating disorder. If you think a person is having thoughts of suicide, assume that you're the only person who will reach out. If you get a gut feeling about any of those risk factors, assume that you're the only one who will reach out and have this conversation. For someone who's struggling with their mental health, talk to them in a private way and tell them that you care. Listen to their story. We want to avoid debating the value of life, minimizing problems, or giving advice. At that time, it's okay to ask directly about suicide. Are you having thoughts of suicide? If the answer is no, there's probably something else that they are struggling with, and that's okay that you asked. It's important to be direct. If they say yes, remember, you might be the only one who's ever reached out to talk about that, and that is huge. We want to encourage them to seek help or to contact their doctor or therapist. If the person is saying that, yes, they are considering suicide, take that person seriously, stay with them, and help remove any lethal means, anything that they might use to attempt suicide. We can talk more about what this looks like. There's a more in-depth gatekeeper training, but remember that there are resources. You can visit their primary care physician, a mental health professional, the emergency department, or an urgent care clinic. We can find a mental health provider. We can talk to the people at our school. We can talk to their parents. We have the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. We have the text line. And in any case where your safety or their safety is at jeopardy, we need to call 911 for an emergency. And so I leave you this, a reflection. How should we support someone experiencing a mental health crisis, or when the crisis is over? How can we best support our peers if they've gone through some type of crisis? How do we make sure that when the crisis is over, that they feel comfortable and supported coming back into Caldwell High School or coming back into our circle of friends? There's always something that we can do to help support people. So thank you so much for listening. I will put together a longer, more comprehensive Let's Talk presentation, but good luck with everything this week. And thank you so much for prioritizing mental health. Go Juniors.